let me tell you, recording for this was a nightmare. The deck is bad. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. See ya. Or at least that's what I wish I could say, but now I need to talk about this given I spent like an hour of games trying to, get to win with this. I managed to win like 3 games out of, 8? So, I guess I'll just take a look at those. So, yeah, this deck is unfortunately really outdated. Tuspa Rocket came out really late for its own good. So yeah, that's pretty rough. But here's the good news. Chronomaly was gifted with an insane amount of playable skills, meaning that Gateway to the Another Dimension is not the only one that the deck can play, and right now I'd say that there are better builds. So Gateway was always, the main star for Chronomaly, and now, unfortunately, it doesn't fit the meta because you need removal, and this deck has removal, but it's really bad removal. It's Hayek like needing to change the attack of a monster and then like tributing a Chronomaly and removing things, which is not amazing. So the only thing that I can do is cheesing. And Tuspa Rocket makes it easier because it makes setups of Huyuk and Atlantis a little bit easier, but that means that it's mostly like something that you can do going second, and going first you really do not have a play, which is the rough part about Chronomaly, besides not having like a lot of removal, and somehow after Tuspa Rocket being released and having like a potential of 9 consistency cards, it's still not consistent. It still opens dog shit. So, oh my gosh, we're gonna start with the deck profile. I'm gonna skip through most of the cards, given that you technically should know this. This has been a part of the game for quite a lot at this point. So, playing 2 Moais, 3 Crystal Bones. These are like extender and the recovery card, and 3 Crystal Skull. Searcher. Unfortunately, to control a Chronomaly, which sometimes means that you open this and Moai, and like you need to normal the skull and special the Moai. You don't have to do anything, which is pretty bad. Playing 2 Tuspa Rockets, I couldn't fit the third. It's not because like I didn't find it yet, but like I even if I had it, like I couldn't fit it in this deck list unless I wanted to go for 22. I already had to get 1 Treacherous, which in this deck is pretty rough because you do need the removal, unfortunately, even if it means playing cards that could conflict with each other. So like sometimes you try to get the messy, then you have another one. It's a risk that you need to take with this deck because you need removal and you don't have it. And 3 Never Discs, 1 Technology. This is cuttable. It's an okay card, I'd say, going into the mid game and like even in some starting hands. If you open like Nebra Disc, Crystal Skull, and like a bunch of similar cards, you can just like grab Technology and just like get whatever you want off of it. And 3 MST, 3 books, and 1 Treacherous. This could be pretty much anything. Just play 3 back row removals or 4. And you could fit Econ as a free-to-play option. It's pretty good in this meta. You could fit Chalice, similar cards. Just do what fits the meta. Book is not even that good right now, so like you can definitely get away with not playing it. For the extra deck, nothing changed from standard Chronomaly lists. So 2 Atlantis, 2 Force Focus, which is your main turn 1 against most decks that do set up level 5 or higher monsters. So stuff like Gandora, for example, in this meta, you would want to like some Force Focus against them. Then 2 Hoyaks and 1 Patriarch. Let's talk about the only new card, being Tuspa Rocket. What does he do? If he's normal special, which is pretty important because it means if he's special off resell bones, he still gets off his effect. You send the Chronomaly from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. Sending from extra deck is not particularly relevant in most situations, but you can technically send up, I don't know, like an Atlantis and then grab it back off with Atlantis. At that point, why wouldn't you like equip the Force Focus? So yeah. You're mostly sending an Ever Disc and setting up a free rank 4. That's, you know, the main use of Tuspa Rocket. It also targets a face-up monster on the field. It loses attack equal to the level or rank of the monster sent to the graveyard times 200. So the only advantage of sending an extra deck monster is reducing the attack by a lot. Admittedly, 1200 is not a bad reduction effect. Also, a number XYZ monster that was summoned using this card gains the effect of attacking 2 monsters during each battle phase. This does help if you are able to make like Hoyoks with this, which is mostly what you're doing, given Hoyok is a number. So your Hoyok will be able to attack the monsters. So for example, like you put 1 to 0 and like the other one you reduce to Tuspa Rocket, and you're doing like a bunch of damage. It unfortunately doesn't set up OTKs by itself, but it is pretty nice overall, so it's a card that you will play in a standard build, and it's a card that you would play in other builds. Before I go into the replays, let me tell you, nothing is really confirmed, let's say, for this deck, given that Tuspa Rocket and the structure deck opened up a lot for this deck. Structure deck, I mean the Onomat structure deck, opened up a lot of paths for this deck that it didn't have before, which means that there are a lot of builds running around. For example, we've seen Drows and Solo Level just playing Tuspa Rocket and Nibra It's a rank 4 spam list with like a lot of macro, so it reminds me of the Fish deck. And there is also this Utopia Leo list that is running around, since this deck can actually do it quite easily. It's a 2-card combo. So yeah, I'll cover those in the future if people want me to. Right now I cover the most standard, let's say, list because it's what most people are used to. But if you want me to cover, you know, the spicier lists, I'll try to do it. Hopefully they won't be as bad as this one or as tough to record. So. In our first replay, we are facing the Onomat deck, and this is basically just a showcase of what the deck normally does. So here is a pretty decent hand, and here it's fairly simple. You just neighbor a disc and set up a rank 6 play on turn 1. I'll set up the Chronomaly Atlantis. Atlantis will put my opponent to 2000 life points, which means that they are now in the range of Hoyak. Giving Ultimate Unite to giving Zaxel to the Onomat deck isn't that bad of a thing, given that the effect of getting Zaxel is not too insane, and also he just scoops to Gaga Revenge because he's likely just unable to remove his Gaga Magician from the board, which essentially means he just dies to Hoyak on the following turn. And if I don't do Hoyak, like, the Atlantis is still pretty much enough. The second deck we face is not real. It's not a deck, but it was one of the replays I've won, so I guess I gotta show you this. So our opponent will activate Necro Valley, normal summon Commandant, and activate Temples, and then we just sack MST. Book was also fine, but MST is bad here. So yeah, we just do things. You just make a Hoyok and like do damage. And our opponent's left with one card that they will just add an Necro Valley, activate Pharaon, but that doesn't exactly, you know, solve his issue, given that he will have his Headman in attack anyways, and he just dies. our third replay, and the only win I pulled off against a meta deck is against Odd Eyes, and I wouldn't even call this a meta deck because he played an horrifying list. So you'll see his list is not good. Let's say this. So he goes for, you know, Xiangfeng, and then he just summons two Arc Pendulums for whatever reason. So yeah, that's why I'm saying like the deck is probably not amazing. So here we do the Tuspa Rocket thingy. This could technically be done with any level 4, but hey, Tuspa had a use. And this is just OTP. This is essentially the cheese play I was talking about. That's what you're gonna do most of your games going second. And that's the only strength deck is, unfortunately. As I said, like, the meta doesn't fit Chronomaly. Chronomaly doesn't fit the meta, obviously. There is so much floating, there is so much removal that is needed and Chronomaly doesn't have. There are so many huge monsters that Chronomaly doesn't exactly deal with. Chronomaly is fine at dealing with 1 or 2 monsters. It's not fine at dealing with like 3 like really big monsters with removal effects. So like DDD was kinda fine before the pinbox, and now that they have Ragnarok, it's really tough. You can't really sit on Hoyuk because Hoyuk will just get banished. And then they can just like make a zombie stand and kill you after that. So it doesn't matter if you put like them to 0 attack. There are a lot of things that this deck really struggles with right now. Like there are also a bunch of monsters that you just put in defense. Like, BA is a deck, like Dante, you just put it there and like you can't really deal with that. Chronomaly is a deck that literally just doesn't do anything if you put your monsters in defense. And in general, like standard back row and like let's say DLM Innovator package is somehow at its worst like historical moment, I'd say. MST is obviously very good right now, but like because when Tracheros are not amazing, and there isn't a lot of back row that you can run in this deck anyways. You could run something like Chalice, you could run something like Offerings. Those do help in some matchups, but do not help in others. So yeah, it's pretty rough, unfortunately, for Chronomaly. I'd say Tuspa Rocket was really, really late. If we had it much earlier, this could have been a fun rogue strategy, more than it already was at release. But unfortunately, we didn't get it. And yeah, and the situation for Gateway to Another Dimension is pretty bad right now. I'm not saying you will not have success with the deck. It is possible. The deck still topped last KC. We had one Chronomaly player making it there. Although it was a slightly different meta. We didn't have rank 8 DDD, as I was saying. The deck was kind of fine into DDD, just kind of beat it before Ragnarok and before rank 8 builds showed up. Right now, I'd say you don't really beat anything in the meta. Your only okay matchup is Gandora, because if you draw a lot of back row, you can just like summon Force Focus, set a lot of back row. They don't crack through that, so it's an okay matchup. Most of your other matchups are unfortunately reliant on you sacking your opponent, which is not something you would normally rely on a deck that plays a lot of back row, like Chronomaly. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you next time, hopefully with a better Chronomaly list. My next video will likely be on Chronomaly or on the mini box, depending on when it comes out. We didn't have leaks today, so sad. But yeah, subscribe. See ya.